Hello everybody, Bengalatunji here. Today we shall be looking at strategy mode 1 precisely, taking a look at strategy definition, especially strategy as defined by Chandler Drucker and the GSW, that is Johnson, Scholes and Whittington. What do they have to say about the subjects of strategy? Also, we shall go into strategic management and also the element we can find in strategic management. We shall define mission, vision, goal, aim, and objective, and their differences. Also, we shall look at the differences between strategic management, strategic planning, corporate planning, long-term planning. All these are interrelated, but at the same time, they are different. We will go into the world of stakeholders management using MENDELOW'S theory. Also, we will take a look at corporate strategy, business strategy, and the functional strategy. I think now we can go into the subject matter. Okay, strategy as defined by Chandler. Strategy as defined by Chandler. Okay, Chandler said basic long-term goal and objectives of an enterprise must be covered by a strategy and the adoption of the course of action. Also, by Chandler's definition, strategy involves or includes the allocation of resources necessary for carrying out the goal of strategy. So, meaning by its definition, a strategy look at the future, organize resources to achieve a goal as defined by Chandler. And as we continue, we'll see that there are some words that will continue to pop up when we are talking about strategy. So this is definition of strategy by Chandler. Let me come again slowly and I read from my notes. As defined by Chandler in 1962, the determination of basic long-term goal objectives of an enterprise and the adoption of the course of action and the allocation of resource necessary for carrying out the goal is strategy. Another contributor that must not be neglected is Drucker. So, how did Drucker define strategy? To Drucker, strategy is a pattern of activity that seek to achieve the objective of the organization, pattern of activity that seek to achieve the objective of an organization. That simply means every organization must have at least an objective and adapt its scope, resources, and operations to environmental changes in the long term. So, Drucker has included some other things which were not mentioned by Chandler. So, in defining strategy, he simply says, saying strategy is an organized activity, and that is fantastic. Strategy is an organized activity. That is when we want to achieve something, a goal, business-wise, personally, or otherwise. Organization is key. That is putting things together in an orderly manner. So this is part of the definition of strategy, especially as pinpointed by Drucker. Also, purposeful activity aim at achieving objective. Purposeful activity aim at achieving an objective. So we are simply saying every organization must be purposeful about its existence and what they intend to carry out and achieve. Strategy also involves long-term thinking. Long-term thinking. But it's important for us not to put everything on long term, because by the time we begin to examine the differences between all these strategic planning, strategic management, long-term planning, we'll see that long-term will not only stand the test of time because it should be common among them. So when we're talking about strategy, long-term is involved, but it's not the only necessary criteria for something to be categorized as strategy. That could be long-term planning. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay. Strategy also is about choices. Choices. And this is key when we are talking about strategy. It's an identifier when we are talking about strategy. It involves strategic choices. And these happen at the topmost of the organization. Strategic choices. Which industry do we want to go? Which client, which customer do we want to serve? And what products do we want to be making? These are strategic choices that must be made. Strategy also involves changing business environments and being able to scan through it on time and proactively position ourselves. So that is strategy as defined by Drucker. And last but not the least of the element that Drucker mentioned is strategy involves enterprise responding proactively to changes in environment, just as I had mentioned. So let us move on. Strategy as defined by Chandler. So these are the elements that Chandler gave us when we are talking about strategy. A company that is strategically planning for future, at least let's say 5 years, we ask some basic or fundamental questions and must be able to answer it at the starting point. Where are we now? Is the first question. Where are we? Are we a new entrants in the industry? Where are we? Must be answered. Then, where do we want to be in the next 5 years? Between the first question and the second question is what we call in strategy gap analysis. We shall get there as we continue in the modules. That's why we need to continuously follow us on our channel. So where are we now? Where do we want to be? The gaps must be filled. Another question that strategy must answer from the onset is, how do we want to get there? We know where we are, we know where we want to be. How do we want to get there? Strategy must be able to answer it. What will the company be doing to get there? Must be answered. How many staff do we need? And what skill level are required? So these are the strategic planning level. And by the time we continue, we'll see those differences between the strategic management and strategic planning and the like. Another question that must be answered is, what technology should we adopt, especially in this 21st century? We cannot do away with technology and we want to have a comparative advantage. It's almost impossible now because technology is now an enabler. Then how large do we want to be? You may look at the question as, okay, how large do we want to be? Is that really necessary a question? But I tell you, it's very necessary to know how large we want to be, because it's possible for an organization to grow larger than they actually have capability to manage. So it's important for us to answer how large we want to be from the onset so that we will know how to strategize towards business expansion. Okay, Yangalatunji is talking from G. James Associate. Please like us, subscribe to us. I want to believe you've been enjoying the video and more are yet to come. So now, another key people that contributed immensely to the world of strategy is or her Johnson, Scholes, and Whittington, and I normally call them GSW. The JSW contributed immensely and their names will keep coming back. Johnson, Scholes, and Whittington. Sorry, don't mind that school supposed to have C. Let's continue, please. The JSW defined strategy has the direction and the scope of an organization over a long time, which achieve advantage in changing environments through its configuration of resources and competencies with the aim of fulfilling shareholders' expectation. We will see that some additions to it and there are some commoners. This definition is similar to Drucker's, but has two other aspects to it, especially as regards strategic management. You see that we are mentioning things interwoven, which are interwoven. We are mentioning strategy, we are mentioning strategic management, strategic planning, long-term planning. So we see that it's specific. GSW added two. items when it relates to strategic management. One, that the enterprise should use resources to achieve competitive advantages. The management of resources to achieve competitive advantages. And without having competitive advantages, the organization or business cannot survive. Also, why it is often assumed that companies should maximize shareholders' wealth, GSW states that the objective of an enterprise should be to fulfill stakeholders' expectation. Fulfilling stakeholders' expectation. We now ask ourselves a question: what is the difference between stakeholders' expectation and shareholders' expectation? Of course, stakeholders are a broader group of people than shareholders. And why every shareholder is a stakeholder, not every stakeholder will be shareholder, but every stakeholder has interest in the business somehow, economically or otherwise. Range or scope of strategic decision as identified by Johnson, Scholes, and Whittington. So, what are the scope of strategic decision? One, what business should we be doing, and what capacity must we develop to be able to do it? Relating to entities' activity to the environment in which it operates. So, we want to do a business, we must ask ourselves a question: do we have resources, or can we get resources around us that we need, or do we have to import? We need to consider. So we want to import those resources at what cost, and how beneficial will it be? Will it give us competitive advantages or competitive edges above our competitor in the industry? These are some depths that we must go into when we are talking about strategy. Okay, we must ensure that the entity has the resources and capability to operate in the within the scope that we've envisioned. Allocation of resources to different activities is critical, especially when it comes to strategic management. Providing high level or strategic framework of detailed decision making at operational level. So you see, operational level or operational strategy or planning is different from strategic management. Because at the high level of strategy, all we do is framework, and at the operational level, we execute. Also, another scope or depth of strategy we must go into is reflecting the value and the expectation of the individual in power within the entity, especially when we mentioned the stakeholders. We must run an organization that could project the value of the stakeholders, and how this value, which eventually will become the organizational culture, will be displayed and will be woven into activities. All these are strategic items that must be looked into. Decision Deciding the long-term direction of the organization This is key in strategy, deciding the long-term direction for the organization, implementing changes within the entity to be able to adapt to changes. Changes, like we all know, is something that is constant. In fact, it's the most constant thing in earth. So we must ensure that within our organization, we have the capability to proactively respond to changes within our industry. Okay, let's move on. Strategic management and its importance. Strategic management and its importance. So, strategic management and its importance now. Strategic management actually concerns itself with setting strategic goals and setting up the organization how to achieve it. Strategic management is about identification, selection, and implementation of the strategies to achieve the long-term goal. And when we are talking about strategy, we are talking about planning towards competitive advantages. We are talking about how we will be the best and retain being the best in the industry, having competitive advantage over other competitors. Like I said in the introduction, strategy is always outward focus. At the heart of strategy is competitive advantage, is competitiveness. So strategic management is like the hand of strategy that strategy used to work and achieve the set goal. Strategy or strategic management is important because it creates a framework of achieving long-term goal. And as important as profitability is, when we're talking about strategic management always aim at the future, not now. So it's possible that profitability will need to be plowed back so that we can achieve the long-term aim. That is the stance of strategic management. Does not focus on the bottom line for now or the short-term profitability, but it looks at long-term. How are we going to continue to lead and have competitive edge in the nearest future and maintain dominance in the industry? That is strategy. And strategic management is a tool in the hand of strategy. Elements of strategic management. When we are talking about elements, we are talking about, okay, when we are talking about strategy, or strategic management rather, what are the features? What are we going to find in it when we are discussing about strategic management? What are the things that we must mention? So that is what we tag elements of strategic management. One, analysis. Two, choice or choices. And of course, we cannot define management without mentioning implementation, monitoring, and control. So these are elements that we will find in strategic management. Analysis of strategic position. Let us pause a bit here. Strategic position. Which position do we want to be in the industry? Do we want to be the market leader? What market share do we aim at? Or we want to be dominating? Or we just want to have a little of the market share and be profitable? These are strategic positioning questions that must be answered. Analysis include objective setting and influence on an organization's strategy. Is external environment, internal environment, especially our capability, building up capability and fulfilling the expectation of the stakeholders. You see that we are not mentioning shareholders, the stakeholders. Choice. Strategic management must formulate and evaluate our choices that we've made. Like even the industry where we want to function is a choice at the strategic level must be made, and evaluating our stand constantly so that we can keep evolving and proactively responding to changes within the industry. So this is another element of strategic management. Choices and formulating choices and evaluating it. Of course, what we've analyzed and the choices we've made, we must implement them. It is in implementation we get results. Then we must monitor what we've implemented, and we must put controls in place to ensure safeguard of assets and put checkmate and balance in our operations. Okay, let's move on. Let's quickly examine the difference between the corporate level strategy, business level strategy, and the functional strategy. Corporate strategy. It concerns itself with answering the question as to what the business should the company be doing and setting the overall objectives. So at the corporate level, is this fundamental strategic question that must be answered. What industry do we want to go into? What do we want to do? Why do we want to go live? Why do our organization, why do we want to set up an organization? So that is at the corporate strategic level. We must answer that question. And things that relate to that are at the corporate strategy level. We're talking about, if we look at the diagram, you look at the diagram, you see it's top notch up there. What are the elements of the corporate strategy that we are going to find when we're discussing corporate strategy specifically? Decision as to the purpose of the company. That is at the corporate level that we ask ourselves, what is our mission? So it's the corporate strategy that gives mission of the organization. And this is critical, the mission statement. Decision as to the purpose of the company, what business should we be doing? That is, okay, now this is our mission. We must select and have strategic choices about the industry we want to go into and the products we want to be producing or services we want to be rendering. These are at the corporate strategy level that we discuss this. Then we matching business activity with the resources. Do we have capacity to go into this industry we want to go into? These are the corporate level strategy. Who do we need to relate with? The contacts, the know-how, technological wise, experience wise, and the like. All the resources necessary is at the corporate level that we garner it. Then we are talking of business strategy. That's middle level strategy, which is of equal importance. Then we'll be talking about how are we going to maintain being in this industry. And one of the way of maintaining or continuity in an industry is, okay, let's take cost leadership. And when we're talking about cost leadership, we are talking about, okay, we want to produce the best quality of products at the most affordable price in this industry, that it's our competitor will find it extremely difficult to be able to produce the same quality at that price. So that gives us a competitive edge. Then at business strategy level, we'll be talking about market differentiation. So how can we separate ourselves so that when they see our products or receive services from us, they know that this is our product, or they've engaged so and so organization to render the service. Market differentiation. How are we going to stand out? How are we going to separate ourselves from the crowd? So it's at the business level strategy that we'll be discussing this. Functional strategy, which is at the day-to-day, especially running of the business and the like, the departmental head and the like, will be talking about this. Functional strategy focuses on how business functions, the units, the departments support the overall objective of the business, how the departments, HODs and like support the or contribute to the overall business goal. This is yours truly. If you've not subscribed to us, please go and like us and subscribe to our channel. And if what you've been hearing so far, you didn't like it, you can equally thumb down. Yes. So that we know that, okay, maybe there's other thing we need to do better. But please subscribe to us, like us, click the notification so that we can continue to receive more from us. This series is going to at least 20 modules. Now, let's continue, please. We go into the purpose of the organization, which is at the strategic level. The mission of the organization. What is mission? Mission is set at the corporate strategic level. Business owners specifically must come out boldly with the purpose of going live. Why do we want to be in existence? And that is what must be answered by a mission statement. The organization's fundamental purpose in the society in terms of how it satisfies its stakeholders. You see, we are not talking about shareholders alone now, but the shareholders must set the mission statement. The shareholders must set out with the mission statement. Why do we want to be in existence? A mission statement should be short and clear. Just like Drucker said, it must answer some basic questions like, what is our business? What is our business? Yes. What is our value to customer? So we'll be examining the value chain. What will our business be? What should our business be? You see, they all seem to be similar questions, but they are purposeful. And business owners must, at the strategic level, answer this fundamental question, because this dictates the direction in which the organization will take. And without direction, everything will go haywire. So mission is critical, and mission statement being written down is important. Why do we have mission statements? To provide basic consistency in our operations, which is strategic. Of course, people are going to be working in the organization to inspire them, to inspire them. Like, we will take a look at Apple and the Apple slogan, which I want to believe is part of their mission statement. They say, think differently, think differently. Just imagine an Apple employee and you wonder why he or she is like that, behaving or thinking differently, because that is the purpose of the organization, and it's going to become the culture of the organization. Everybody there begins to think differently. So its mission statement inspires the employee, even the employer alike, because it gives direction. It's purposeful. To translate our intent and purpose to corporate objective. Mission is different from corporate objective, but without mission, we cannot have corporate objectives. We are going to get there in a jiffy. To provide common purpose for all groups within the organization. Don't forget there will be different groups, the board, that is the stakeholders at the apex level, the shareholders, public community and the like, even the employee, employer, government and the like. All mission statements gives direction to all. To establish goal and ethics for the organization. That is, in our mission statements, it communicates our purpose and ethics, business professional ethics, organizational value and morality to the world around us. To improve the understanding of the organization and support from the external shareholder. So it improves the understanding of the organization. People people can easily understand us, even from the outside. They know that this is what the organization stands for, and if you are part of the organization, this is what is expected or what you most likely will enjoy. Moving ahead, having known what mission should be or look like, what is vision? Vision comes from mission. When we have a mission that gives us direction, vision is a bit of the breakdown of what we want to achieve, the desired future state for the industry or for the organization. Like the Apple, for example, let's say the mission statement is okay, like their slogan, think differently. We can imagine what the vision will look like. Disrupt technology, advance technology, and they begin to break it down. Those are visions. So the desired future state for the industry and for the organization in particular is what vision is. If we have vision, then we will have a goal, at least, or goals. So what is goal? Desired achievement, implying action is needed to reach the goal or the achievement that we've set. So goal comes from the vision that we have. It's a subset of the vision that we have, and is another breakdown little level of vision and must be written down. Our goal must be written down. Then we go to aim. Having known the vision and from it we get our goals, then our aim. But the difference between aim and objective is this. Let's use one stone to kill two balls. While aim is not quantified, an objective statement must be quantifiable, like our KPI. When we have a statement, okay, we want to do this within the next 1 year, that is aim. But when we say within the first 1 year, for every month we want to be having so number of products, or reaching out to so amount of customer, generating so million naira or dollars. So that is objective. It is quantifiable. We attach figure to it. But aim is not quantified. And that is the major difference between aim and objectives. Who decides mission? I've said it before. At the apex level, the corporate strategic level, aims must be set. The organizational leader must set the mission. The decision of the board of directors, that is if immediately as the organization goes live, the board is set up. So the decision of the board of directors on this is influenced by the way the organization is governed and the expectation of the stakeholders. Okay, moving on. The stakeholders. Who are the stakeholders? Like we've mentioned before. Now, we'll quickly deal with who are the stakeholders. Group of persons with the interest, which have interest in the organization, are stakeholders. Like I said before, shareholders are stakeholders, but not all stakeholders are shareholders. So these are stakeholders that we could find and which we have interest in any organization. We have the shareholder or the business owner. We are going to have the managers and the employee. We are going to have the lenders, especially if the source of fund is externally generated. We are going to have the suppliers. We are going to have the customers themselves. We are going to have the government and the regulators within the industry. We are going to have environment and social bodies like the communities we are in and the local community. We are going to have the industrial associations. We can have employee having forming associations too and the like. So these are some of the stakeholders, and each and every one of them has interest in the organization. It could be economic interest, it could be social interest in form of engagement and recruitment from the local community. It could be ecological in form of not deforesting or ensuring that social responsibility is maintained and attended to. But somehow, whether economic or other interests, every stakeholder has an interest in the organization. Okay, how do we manage stakeholders? How do we manage stakeholders? And Mendelow has given us a fantastic way of managing stakeholders. So let's quickly take a look at Mendelow's matrix. Mendelow's matrix. At the left hand side, as you can see, is the level of power, that is power displayed by the stakeholder. And at the topmost is their level of interest. So just like I said before, interest of stakeholders could be economic and it could be other. So level of their interest and the level of their power, and whether the level of power or the level of interest, we could divide it into two. It's either is high level interest or low level interest. High level power being displayed or low level power being displayed. So for group A, this is a set of stakeholder that has low level of power around them and also low level of interest. So as a manager in the organization, as a member of the board of director, we must give them attention but with minimal effort. We must give them attention but with minimal effort. But let's say we have another set of stakeholders that has high level of interest and low level of power displayed. We must continue to inform them on the runnings of the organization, carry them along, because this group could metamorphose and has more power and go into some other high level group. So let's say we have the C group or set of stakeholders with low level of interest but they have high power. So we have stakeholder group that has low level of interest with high power. We must ensure we are satisfying them. You know why? Because they can metamorphose to group D too, and these are key players having high interest in the organization and also having high power that they could wage. So we must ensure that they are satisfied, and also we must ensure that we carry them along. In fact, we must give group D maximum attention as stakeholders. Okay, moving on. Thank you for watching. I want to believe you've enjoyed the video. Please like us, subscribe to us, G. James Associates. We are value to life. We are value to your business. See you in Model B.